It's another ECRO chasing race, and today it's chasing Frankfurt. It's 38 kilometers, but there's 3 big hills, which means it's 900 meters of climbing. Let's see how we go. If you look up at the top right hand corner of the screen, you can see the profile for the course that we're about to race. So we're going to do it a little bit differently this time. We're going to do the whole race on fast forward. It's going to take only about 8 minutes for a race that lasted well over an hour. Well, not well over, an hour and 5 minutes or so. And as you can see, we've come to the first climb, and this one is Fox Hill. So pretty pleased actually that I stayed with the front of the pack, and apart from that guy who's just gone off the front, who actually gets pulled back shortly, staying with the pack all the way up. So for the first climb, not unhappy with my performance. Starting to spread out a little bit now, but it'll all come back together a little bit after the top. So I'll leave you for the next minute or so until we get to the next big climb, and then we'll see how that goes for me. So after the downhill, after the first climb, we're all a little bit rested, probably got our breath back a bit just before we start to undertake the second climb of the day. And if you look at the route map in the top right hand corner, you can see that this one is a big one. And off we go. And it starts off fairly steep. And just looking at whereabouts we are in the race, you can see right on the right hand side, there's the list of names, and then to the left of that is a graph with a load of circles. Now this comes from Source for Zwift, which many of you have probably heard of, and if you haven't, I will do a separate video on this at some point. But essentially what it does is it gives you an idea of your position within the race. So I'm in the blue highlighted circle, and there's 9 of us there that you can see, and it's made up of mostly green around the circle, which denotes the B class riders, and then one A class rider in with us as well. And then you can see ahead of us by about 20 seconds there's a couple of other riders, 1A and 1B, and then ahead of that is the groups of A's, as you can see. So pretty much what you probably expect to see at this point in the race as we get halfway up Leith Hill. And we've stayed fairly well together, and in fact I'm pretty pleased with this climb so far. I'm staying in the pack and keeping within the wheels. Just as it starts to steepen up here a bit though, there is a bit of a pull away from some of the stronger B riders, I would say, at the front of the group, and we can see that I'm pushing hard to try and stay with them as we approach the top of the climb, but they've got a little bit of a gap on me, and I'm really having to push to try and not lose them over this last bit of the climb. But oh dear, there they go into the distance. Wonder how this is going to turn out. Well, let's rejoin again at the beginning of the next climb and see if I managed to pull my way back. before we get to the next climb, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. There's been a group of 4 of us that lost the original pack, and as you can see, over the downhill and this flat little bit before the next climb, we actually managed to pull our way back to the group of riders that broke away from us on that second climb, just as we're entering into the third climb. So you can see we're now on Box Hill, back in the pack, back with the bees. So let's see how we get on by the time we get to the top of this climb before we have the descent for the final climb of the race. As we start our final climb for the day up Keith Hill, pretty pleased. Managed to stay with the group all the way up the previous climb, and we're all together as we start off this climb. But will that change as we go up? Well, let's find out and see where we finish at the top of this climb before that big descent down to the finish line. As we continue our descent down back towards the finishing line, you can see that the pack did break up on that climb, and essentially what we've ended up with is some of the stronger B riders have pulled away and they seem to be uncatchable at the moment, and then there's myself and 2 other riders with a bit of a gap in front and behind us. So it all becomes a little bit cat and mouse between the 3 of us. The odd little attack here and there just to test each other's legs, I suppose. And as we come up towards the final 1.5 km before we get to the finishing line, I'll just slow it down and take you through the last ½ kilometre, and we'll see how this ended up. So here we are, 400 metres to go. I've got the 2 other riders, Billings and Mackie, right on my tail, and essentially I'm sure they've got a sprint, I'm going to go now. So I get out of my seat and I start to push. But you can see on the right hand side that they've gone orange with their watts per kilo, and they're responding as you'd expect. And honestly, I thought I might have them, but with less than 10 metres to go, they nipped me on the finishing line.
6th? Oh, I'm delighted. I mean, I still maintain climbing is not my thing, but I'm really pleased with how that went. There's a few guys who finished a little bit ahead of us, and I was literally pipped on the post, just didn't have enough to hold off Billings and Maxie, who I thought I was just going to sneak it, and literally, well, you can see hundredths of a second. Still, very well done to them. They had a bit more sprint than I did. And then if we have a look at the timeline, hill, another hill, another hill, slightly less steep hill. But I think my effort was consistent across all of it. And then, well, my critical power at 5 minutes is about my best. And the same all the way out to 10 minutes. And then when we get to here, an hour, it is my best, give or take one thing. And then even here, at sort of 20 seconds, it's there or thereabouts. So, a good all-round performance. Anyway, I'm waffling on. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye now.